You work hard, you earn decent, but by the 20th of every month, you're broke. Again, let me say this clearly, it's not your salary, it's your subconscious. Most people don't sabotage their bank account out of laziness. They do it because of invisible psychological traps they never learn to notice. Today, we are decoding 3 psychological traps keeping you broke and the science-backed rewires to finally break free. Have you ever promised yourself, no Swiggy this week, no mindless spending, but by 9:30 p.m. on a stressful Wednesday, you're halfway through a chicken biryani wondering how it happened? That's not a lack of willpower, that's your brain's invisible villain at work. From the studies of behavioral economist George Levenstein, your mind runs on 2 very different operating systems. Hot state, emotional, impulsive, craving relief. Cool state, rational, strategic, long-term focused. When in your cool state, you plan to budget, you decide to save, you swear you will start tomorrow. But when the hot state kicks in, triggered by stress, fatigue, or boredom, logic gets hijacked. You don't want control, you want comfort. However, this hot brain is like a reckless roommate with access to your wallet, one who lives in apartment and doesn't care about the next month's rent. That's why we sabotage our financial plans, not because we are stupid, because we are stuck in this psychological trap this hot brain has laid. To see how deep this trap runs, let's look at one of the most shocking experiments in behavioral science. To fundamentally understand why we self-sabotage financially, we need to enter the lab, or rather, the smoking room. In one of the most groundbreaking experiments in behavioral finance, economist George Levenstein and his team asked a bold question. What's your price for self-control when your cravings are on fire? Here's what they did. They gathered 98 adult smokers, people who know a thing or two about temptation. Then they split them into 2 states. Cool state, smokers were relaxed, recently satisfied with a cigarette. Hot state, smokers were deprived, deep in nicotine craving. Each participant was asked a simple but very real question. How much money would we have to give you to delay smoking for just 5 minutes? And this wasn't just hypothetical, they were actually given the money if they chose to wait. Real urges, real cash, real consequences. Here's what happened. In the cool state, most said, hey, $20, maybe 50. I could wait. But in the craving state, just one day later, those same people said, $500, $1,000, maybe more. Just let me smoke now. That dramatic shift proved a powerful truth. We massively underestimate how weak we'll be in the moments of temptation. This is what Lowenstein calls the hot-cool empathy gap. When you're calm and clear-headed, you make bold financial plans. I will save this month. I will avoid impulse purchases. I won't overspend again. But when the urge hits, stress, hunger, loneliness, boredom, you throw logic out of the window and throw 3,000 rupees in your shopping cart. This study fundamentally revealed how your emotional state directly alters how you value money in the moment. This is why budgeting often fails. You plan in the cool state but spend in a hot one, and the two don't talk. This experiment proved self-sabotage traps aren't a character flaw, they are predictable brain bugs. These cognitive traps aren't one-offs. They're routines, repeats, wealth drainers disguised as daily life. Here are 3 subconscious psychological traps quietly sabotaging your bank account. The time is 11:47 p.m. You're not asleep. You're not productive. Just there. So you open a shopping app just to check. Next thing you know, a sushi platter, a trimmer, and a $2,999 neck massager are on the way. You don't even remember clicking buy now, but your credit card does. It wasn't hunger or need. It was your brain chasing dopamine while your rational self was already in sleep mode. You had a terrible week. Your boss snapped. Deadlines piled up. So you say, I've earned this. And suddenly, you're at a mall with 2 shopping bags and one giant question. Why did I even buy this? Lowenstein calls this emotional substitution. You weren't buying things, you were buying relief. But here's the catch. Relief bought on EMI comes with interest. Today is your salary day. You feel like a new person. You sit down and plan the perfect budget. $500 for food, Zero for fun, because this time you will be disciplined. By day 6, that perfect budget is shredded. By day 20, you're spiraling in guilt and swiping your card at nearest restaurant. This isn't a planning problem, it's Kahneman system 1 taking over with blind optimism. In the moment, you believed the fantasy. Your cool brain didn't predict your hot state hunger. These aren't just bad decisions, they're predictable traps built into your psychology. To get rich, you don't just need more income, you need fewer of these psychological traps. And to break them, you got to name them, spot them, and importantly, replace them. Have you ever thought, why do I keep making the same money mistakes over and over? You think self control is enough, but your brain isn't a spreadsheet, it's a storm of emotions. Therefore, if you want to stop self sabotage, you need systems, not just willpower. Here are 4 powerful rewiring systems straight from behavioral science. From the pre-commitment theory by George Lowenstein and Dan Early, we often overestimate our future self-control. In calm moments, we plan to save, invest, or avoid overspending. But when emotions rise, our so-called hot state, those plans collapse. That's where commitment devices comes in. They lock in wise financial choices before emotion interferes. Here are the real-world applications. Use savings accounts with early withdrawal penalties. Automate investments the moment your salary arrives. Use apps that block impulse purchases or spending spikes. Research in behavioral economics shows that impulsive decisions thrive in emotional states where the brain seeks instant gratification or long-term gain. A cooling off period interrupts this urge by introducing a mandatory delay, allowing your rational mind to regain control. Here are the real world applications. Enforce a 24-hour rule before making large purchases. Use browser extensions to pause or block buy now buttons. Shift impulse items to a wish list, not your cart. Time isn't a barrier to pleasure, it's the buffer your brain needs to choose wisely. From the study of nudge theory by Richard Taylor and Cass Sunstein, we don't always act on intention, especially when tired, stressed, or overwhelmed. Instead, we default to the easiest option available. That's why designing smart defaults can dramatically reduce self-sabotage. Here are real-world applications. Auto-invest a percentage of income before it hits your spending account. Use budgeting tools that alert you before discretionary spending. Start each day with a preset prompt. Spend like a builder, not a buyer. You can't always trust your mood, but you can always trust your system. Self-sabotage isn't a flaw in character. It's a gap between emotion and logic. These tools, commitment, delay, structure, and self-connection, bridge that gap. Because wealth isn't just about earning, it's about rewiring your choices before emotion hijacks them. You were never lazy, you were misinformed, you were never weak. You were just unaware of your brain's blind spots. But now you are awake. You can finally see the psychological traps. Impulse buying, emotional spending, fantasy budgeting. They weren't just flaws in your character, they were features of a brain wired for now, not for later. It can feel like strength, like power, like agency. That's the mindset the rich already know. Wealth isn't about perfection, it's about pattern recognition and then pattern replacement. You've done the first part, now let's build the second one. The next time you ask yourself, why do I keep sabotaging my money? Now you know, it's not your income, it's your untrained impulses. But here's the good news. From subconscious sabotage to conscious success is just one rewire away. The next time you see the trap, you can step outside of it. Next time your brain says, buy it now, you will pause. You will smile because now you know what's really going on. Subscribe to Think Rich with Vishakh, where we don't just teach money, we reprogram the mind behind it.